So just as a quick legal disclaimer, I did receive this as a review sample with a handful of expectations. Basically, I review the product, talk about its price, compare it to my Brady M210 that I use, and allow the company to potentially reuse the video as they see fit. But this is the MakeID P31s label printer, and I received some cartridges with different materials to print on. But first I'm going to unbox the label printer itself. And inside it includes some documentation on how to get the app and how to use the printer. It includes the printer itself, which comes pre-installed some of these WP-40 labels, and basically it's a little rectangular label with rounded corners. It's a test label I printed. And the box also includes a USB-C cable for charging purposes. And when you get this printer, you're going to need to download the app to use it. So I'm going to show that on this iPhone here, since it's the only spare phone I have that will run the app that isn't being used for recording. And to get the app, you can either use the QR code included in the instructions, otherwise you can just search for it. MakeID Label Pro, as you see there. And you're just going to get that. And it will take a second to install, but it's not too big of an app. Now, this app doesn't require an account, but if you want to use some of the cloud features and some of the other features, you will need an account for that. Now, once the app is installed, you need to turn on your printer. So you hold down the power button till you hear the musical tone, and then Bluetooth needs to be on your phone. You can click Connect Printer. It's going to look for it, which you'll tap on it. It'll beep at you, as you heard, to let you know that it's connected, and it's going to ask you every time that you change labels if you want to switch to whatever label type you're using. In this case, it actually has what's in there, so you can just click clear and switch. So you will need an account, like if you want to be able to import Excel files and save over a certain number of things. But from there, once the app's installed, if you want to put something in this box, you have some options here. So you can do text, and we're just going to do the word test. You can change the style and font. I have found that it prints sharper if you do bold text. And once you're done editing your text, you can just click the little check mark or just click on the box. And I haven't figured out how to edit the text after you click it, so if you click off of the thing and you weren't done editing your text, you'd have to start over again, unfortunately. So yeah, that's kind of a thing that I'm sure they'll fix later on, hopefully. But once you're done making your text, though, you can shift it around. And the nice thing is it'll naturally try to lock it into places. So as you see, the lines pop up when it's centered either horizontally or vertically, which helps. Otherwise, you can also use the alignment settings. So if I want to put it on the side, or I want to center it, maybe I want to bottom center, which is kind of handy. Yeah, then same thing with like barcodes. Those are pretty easy to do. You just type in whatever you want the barcode to be. and then you move it around and place it accordingly. QR codes, those are also pretty simple. Just type in whatever you want it to be. In this case, I'm just going to leave the default text. But you can just move it around. Maybe move these so they're not overlapping, so they actually work. You can even put in dates, which is cool. Those are pre-formatted options. Or, no, you can turn them on and off as well. I was going to say there should be a way to type it in manually as well, but nope. And you can even do like current time if you want to update it. But that is a little too much stuff to print. Also forms. So basically little tables. Pretty cool. And I imagine as things change, they'll update the app and add more features. So to print, obviously just click the big print button. And it's remembered my settings from previously. I believe by default, the print density was at like 10 or 14. I found that it prints sharper if you set the print density to the highest setting of 20. And in this screen, it'll let you do multiple copies if you want to print more than one. And it'll give options too to configure how it prints off. Basically like alignment stuff. So yeah, from there though, you'll hit print. And it'll print out whatever you told it to create. And this does have a manual cutter, so once it's done printing, you'll just push down firmly on that button until it basically bottoms out. And your label should come free. And as you can see, it printed as I set it up. And with the bold text and the highest print quality settings, these turn out fairly nice and sharp, as you can see. And those will read with the barcode reader, and that'll read with the camera. I've already tested that. This one, I just had to go to google.com just as a random test. But yeah, printing's pretty simple. Just a matter of getting used to the app. The app's kind of it's kind of a weird point for me. Like, obviously with this, whoops. I'm not sure what I told it to do. Oh, I guess I told it to progress a label. I hit the play button by mistake. Yeah, obviously there's no way to print without the app. So I'm not super excited about having to use an app, but at the same time, I do find that it's a lot easier to type on a QWERTY keyboard than my Brady keyboard, which is alphabetical keyboard. Plus I'm more used to typing on a phone keyboard than the Brady's keyboard. I would say if you're using Android, might not be a bad idea to manually download the APK file and back it up just in case they decide to stop supporting the device. But really, that's kind of almost a non-problem, I'd say, because if they stop supporting the device, the other issue you're going to have is you're not going to be able to get labels anyways, because these labels are all proprietary cartridges that are only compatible with the device it's made for. But moving on, some of the other cartridges they sent me to review and look at are going to be fun. This is heat shrink, so 4.5 millimeter diameter, and I think this is heat shrink. Oh no, this is my cable wrap. So for labeling cables and wrapping around in the vinyl wrap. Alright, this is one of the heat shrink rolls. I haven't opened all of these yet because I haven't used them yet. But yeah, so this is heat shrink. LRS32 and 6.1 millimeter diameter with 2.1 meters of length. And this is one, the bigger one that I got for heat shrink that I've already played with a little. And this is a 16.8 millimeter diameter with 21 meters of length. But next I think I'm going to compare print speed between the two devices. Alright, so I got these configured to basically print the same thing. And now what I'm going to do is individually print from each one and show what the print speed is like. So that was an interesting test. Not a perfect one, but the MakeID ended up printing this label in 3.1 seconds and the Brady ended up printing this label in 2.1. Obviously the fonts aren't the same size, but they're kind of close. The label width is almost the same as well. And it's just an interesting test. Obviously, depending on what you're printing, it's probably going to vary, but I would say that it's probably going to be fairly close in general. So like with most of these label printers, cartridge swaps are pretty straightforward and easy. Just open the cover, remove the cartridge, put the new one in, and since this has an app, the printer fell asleep, but when I turn it back on, oops, wrong button, there we go. The app should tell me, once it connects, that it has a different cartridge in it. There we go. So now I can switch to this thermal label settings. And if I want to print something, like a piece of heat shrink for my cables that I make, there we go. Just align it like so. Have it nice and centered. And now I have a piece of heat shrink that's been labeled. And if I want to use the smaller heat shrink, I haven't opened this one up yet. First you need to obviously take it out of its bag. And there's a protective cover here that you have to remove. Or well, not a protective cover, I guess more of a warning label. And same deal, I can just easily swap this out for another one. And the app will end up asking me if I want to switch label because I changed. And I can just kind of reconfigure that. Although I think for this one I want something different. So I can delete text. Just going to type in jumper. Maybe I want to make this for a jumper wire. Did I make it bold? Alright, align. Nice and centered now. And print. Centering's not the best on that. That was my fault though for not adjusting the font size to fit inside appropriately, so I should have probably resized this a little bit and then aligned it. A little bit of trial and error. In my case, more error on my part than the printer. As you can see, my new print looks a lot better than the old one. It's more centered and ends up better. But yeah, switching cartridges and printing on different materials is pretty easy. I especially like to use the wire wrap ones for labeling cables. There's a lot of cables that I'll label on a semi-regular basis, whether it be for personal projects or just for stuff I'm selling that I want to label to make it easier to understand. So I thought it'd be nice to demonstrate the labels, and I'm going to start with the big heat shrink. Don't mind the background noise of the hot air gun. I have to have that to shrink the heat shrink. And this is going to be a little bit smaller than what I need, which means it's going to be a little bit tight to get on. But it'll actually work out just fine and once it's shrunk. I'm just going to blast that here with hot air. It's probably a little bit hotter than it should be. It's 650 C. Or no, this is 650 Fahrenheit, I'm sorry. But it looks like it's shrinking down nicely. The text didn't deform, but it did line up poorly with that braided mesh, so it looks a little off. This is a pretty thin heat shrink, so it cooled down pretty fast, and it's doing a pretty nice job of oh, no, there we go, it's starting to slip a little. Normally you want to use heat shrink or glue for something like this, but it's doing an adequate job otherwise. And then I'm going to take this smaller one. I think this is going to be the right size for 18 gauge wire. We will find out. I'm going to shrink it around this wire here, as you can see. It's not a jumper, but that's what I printed, so that's what we're going to have it say. I'm just going to shrink that around there. Now, one thing I'm noticing is I should have made the font smaller, because if this were a real world application, it would be hard to read, so that's a user error on my part. But it looks like that's actually going to shrink down perfectly. Let me cool off for a second. It's still a little warm. You can see, text still is readable. Yeah, it's still not 100% cooled off, but it's stuck on there nice and good. Using a non-glue backed, just regular heat shrink like this isn't ideal for holding on braiding because it can slip. It's doing a good job for what it is, but you would normally use a glue or adhesive based heat shrink. But yeah, that's really nice. And turn that off. Here's one of the wraparound labels. So let's peel the edge off there, and I'll stick this on like so. I got it crooked. Try again. There we go. I think that's still crooked, but it's close enough. As you can tell, we'll zoom in here. Wrap around nicely. A little crooked on my end because I thought I had it right, but not quite. Easy to read. This is what the Brady looks like in comparison. Now the Brady's a little bit sharper and bolder looking, but you can toy with the settings and find a font that looks more appealing to you, which is nice because this Brady printer isn't quite as flexible as the MakeID one is. But yeah, overall though, I'm pretty happy. Seems like the labels are pretty good quality. So I thought I'd talk about price comparisons next. And I'm going to be comparing three printers: the MakeID P31s, the Brady M210, and the Brady M211. Now, the Brady M211 is more comparable to the P31s, but I have the M210, so I'm comparing it to the M210 as well. And the printer just shut itself off. When it comes to cost, the MakeID is the cheapest of the three at $100. The M210 for just the printer only is $100. But if you want a rechargeable battery for it, it's basically $100 extra. You can either buy just the battery by itself for $100, or you can buy the case and battery combo for an extra $100. So with a battery, the M210 basically costs you $200, and the M211 by Brady, that one's $180, which is the most comparable and almost double the price of the MakeID. And when it comes to battery capacity, the MakeID has a 2000 milliamp hour battery. The Brady M210 has a 1620 milliamp hour battery, and the Brady M211 has a 1200 milliamp hour battery. What that really means for actual print time is up for debate, because it's not something you can easily test in a way that would be like really accurate and scientific. But I would hope that the MakeID would have a better battery life than the other two for the same amount of printing. And when it comes to my Brady printer, I actually haven't charged that since I bought it, so it does have a very good standby battery life. I don't know how long the printer made by MakeID would go on standby, but it charges over USB-C and doesn't use a proprietary charger, so it's not really that big of a deal. I would also hope that the MakeID P31s would be able to run off USB-C power if the battery ever fails, but I don't really have a way to test that without taking it apart, I guess. Physically, obviously, the Brady M210 is bigger than the P31s by MakeID. The MakeID P31s is more comparable in size to the Brady M211. The MakeID P31s has the highest print resolution at 300 dpi, and the two Brady printers, the 210 and the 211, are 203 dpi. And the dpi only really matters depending on your settings, so you can set things up to print in really low quality and have a really low dpi in the MakeID, or you can print in really high quality. It's just kind of a user preference type of thing. And when it comes to print speed, there's the numbers that are reported, but I think there as well, it's very variable. Depends on what your coverage is, how much of the label you're trying to print on. Because the MakeID P31s reports a print speed of 20 millimeters a second. The Brady M210 prints around 10 millimeters a second. And the Brady M211 prints around 15 millimeters a second. And I think that's pretty subjective based on what you're printing, basically. Now, the MakeID P31s has the widest print capabilities out of the three. The MakeID P31s can print at 25.4 millimeters wide. The Brady M210, which is the one I have, can print at 16 millimeters wide. And the Brady M211 can print at 19 millimeters wide. Interestingly enough, the MakeID P31s only comes with a 1-year warranty, but the Brady printers come with a 2-year warranty. That may or may not be a problem. I mean, seeing that the MakeID printer is almost half the price of the Brady options, I guess, if it breaks after a year, you just buy another one and you're basically in the same boat. But I don't really have any reason to believe it's gonna break in a year. It would be nice to see a little bit longer warranty to match the competitors. I also want to compare the cost of the materials, and I based these prices on what the websites showed on the day of filming, and not including any bulk discounts or vendor pricing. So these are just purely the price if you buy one of each from the manufacturer's website with no other kind of discounts. And the 0.75 inch self-laminating 14-foot long labels from MakeID, their cost is $21.99, and from Brady the cost is $34.49. So significantly cheaper to go the MakeID route if you're labeling a lot of like cables, patch cables and whatnot. And then the 6mm heat shrink at 7 foot long. The MakeID P31s is $42.99 per cartridge, And the Brady M210 to 11 series is $54.99 per cartridge, and still there, it's a pretty significant savings. When you go with the bigger 16mm heat shrink, the savings isn't quite as noticeable. So from MakeID, that's $69.99, and then for the Brady, it's $76.99. You're still saving $7 a cartridge, but you'll definitely see a bigger savings if you're buying in bulk. And then the 3/4 inch by 1.5 inch die cut labels from MakeID, you're looking at $21.99 per cartridge, and from Brady it's $31.49. So there again, it's a big savings. Basically, between the two, if you're printing in bulk, I think you're going to see a more significant savings because MakeID does offer a 20% discount on their cartridges if you buy 6 or more, and that's automatically applied and checkout on their website. But yeah, interesting to see the cost breakdown. I'm surprised at the difference in price and how much you could save by going with the MakeID. So when it comes to choosing between the MakeID and the Brady, whether it be the M210 or the 211, it's kind of a tough choice. MakeID offers good value. I do wish the housing was rubberized. It's supposed to be fairly drop resistant, but I'd be a little nervous about doing that. I'm not super excited about the app. The app does have its benefits, but you know, if you don't want to go and have to use an app, the Brady is going to be a better choice. But at the same time, you know, if you would prefer to use a keyboard that is a QWERTY keyboard like you're used to, versus having, you know, you got your choice between the weird alphabetical keyboard or a normal keyboard, basically. You know, I think going with the MakeID would make more sense, just because it is kind of miserable using this keyboard. I don't enjoy it. The other thing is, if you're doing this for large enterprise use, I'd probably still go with the Brady and spend the extra money, just because it's a better known commodity. Brady's usually one of the go-tos for people when it comes to doing labeling, but I definitely wouldn't hesitate to buy one of these. I feel like if this would have been around when I was on the market for my Brady, there's actually a good chance where I would have gone with the MakeID just to save money, because what I spent on my Brady versus what this would cost me now, the MakeID is half the price. It has pretty much the same features, and the cost of materials is cheaper. The only thing I just wouldn't like I said, is the app would bug me. I'm not a big app person. I would prefer something standalone like this. But if I didn't already have this and I was choosing between the two, I would probably actually lean towards the MakeID printer. Something that I think would be nice for them to offer is a rubberized housing you can put over this to protect it, because ideally you don't want to be dropping it, but that's really one of my biggest fears, is that you drop it and damage it and you're out of luck. Versus this, I don't really want to drop it either, but I feel like the rubberized covers should protect it fairly well from mild impacts. But yeah, I mean, there's not really anything I complain about on this printer other than the app and the fact that you have to do a little bit of tweaking and playing with the settings to get the prints to come out as sharp as the Brady, but that's something they could fix potentially in a software update if enough people actually complain about it. So hopefully that's interesting, and thanks for watching.